Now, there's things that come better from a woman than from a man, and I happen to know one who has something to say, so.
What did you just say? Well, since I spend most of my time in ministry with women, I've noticed clothing. I'm a woman myself, so I just want to borrow your time a little bit this morning because in the past decade, I've seen things change. You know, fashion industry says that every 30 years, styles repeat itself. In the 70s, bright, bold patterns, and I saw them coming in the last decade, and I said, been there, done that, don't want to do that again. The boldness, though, that I see is what Gary has already referred to as sensuality, and I had to change the leadership covenant that we have established for women's ministries so my leaders understood we present a picture of God in the way we present ourselves. So I added this statement: I will model a humble and teachable spirit and dress with modesty. Now, I had lots of questions. What in the world does that mean? Now, I'm going to ask your both permission and forgiveness at this point, because I used something very quickly so that they would get the point. I don't want to see your boobs. If I'm sitting across the table from you, standing up buying a ticket to somewhere, I don't want to have to look away because I can't look. And I'm a woman. I don't want to do that. Second thing is I don't want to see your skin. So you're worshiping God and all I can see is your midriff. Get rid of it. Well, there's another point to that, too. Anyway, cover it up. And the third thing is, I don't want to see your upper legs. So that's kind of the crass way of saying this is what we don't want to see. This is what modesty is. But let me go ahead and give you two good reasons that we ought to pay attention to what Gary's just read in 1 Timothy 2, that Paul writes under the leadership of the Spirit, and he calls respectable apparel. It's modest, and it has self-control. And he explains that, and actually he gives us an option. The preferred option is to be dressed in good works. But let me read to you what Nancy Lee DeMoss, who is the head of something called Revive Our Hearts, here's how she suggests two simple and helpful criteria for modesty in dress. Modesty means avoiding exposing intimate parts of the body and avoiding emphasizing private or alluring parts of the body in your dress. They're yours. Keep them to yourself. Now that's what she would say. So what we can say then, modesty means self-control in my dress so that the secret parts of my body that were meant to be kept secret are kept secret and sacred. And they need to be covered. The interesting thing is, I don't believe for a minute the opposite is frumpiness. I believe God values color and loveliness and femininity. We're going to have to be very discerning. And I'm speaking particularly to the ladies, and I hope the men are listening too. Now, so the first thing is that God, how you dress really matters to God. Second is, it matters to the Christian community. And Gary has just mentioned that briefly, particularly to those of you who are our brothers. So as we recognize this, I have the right to say this. One of the men I work with on this campus, now if you want to know who it is, come and ask me later, has asked me repeatedly, could you please urge the ladies in this church to cover up? I have a problem. I've had a problem with pornography. I'm not in bondage to it anymore, but when I sit behind them and all I can see is skin, that's a problem for me. Let me give you a quote that I love. This has changed my whole understanding and appreciation of modesty from C.J. Mahaney from a little book he's just written called Worldliness. This is what he says: ladies, your wardrobe is a public statement of your personal and private motivation. Hemlines are a heart issue. Modesty means propriety and decency. It means avoiding clothes and adornment that are extravagant or costly or sexually enticing. Modesty is humility. I love this. Modesty is humility expressed in dress. It's a desire to serve others, particularly men, not promoting or provoking sensuality. And modesty is a choice you make. Immodesty is more than wearing a short skirt or a low-cut top. It's the act of drawing undue attention to yourself. It's pride on display by what you wear. Self-control is, in a word, restraint. Restraint for the purpose of purity, for the purpose of exalting God and not ourselves, and that's the hallmark of a godly woman's dress. Now that's compelling. So let me close with encouraging this. You really never realize how important your clothing is until you realize how important you are to God as a woman. So I'm going to invite you as sisters this morning not to let the immodest styles squeeze you into their mold. And if you're a parent, that's going to be very important as you take your daughters shopping. So let me suggest this. Cover up. Keep those intimate parts of your body a secret for the glory of God. And if you're married, for the good of your husband. If you're single, stand tall before the Lord as a woman of beauty. Be content in the charm of God's image on your life. And all women, I don't know who you are in this room, but you need to repent of your sin if you're using your dress to be admired or to seduce the men in this room away from sexual purity or away from their wives. And instead, let's rejoice in being women. Let's feel free to be modestly feminine, clothed in garments that are chosen with discernment. You'll need to pray before you go shopping. Shaped by self-control, modeled in good works and pleasing first to God. For the spiritual health of this local church, whose relationships you have power to control or destroy.